If you love Chevys, then this is the place for you. The Menards Chevy Series, where we tour the country to find the finest race cars and rides that are part of the bow tie breed.
A couple miles up the road in downtown Memphis, it's all about Beale Street, blues, and barbecue. But this weekend here at Memphis International Raceway, it's all about Chevrolets. Hello everybody, I'm Brian Loans, and this is the second event of the 2015 Chevrolet Series. We're going to be going all across the country this year, but here we're under beautiful skies in Memphis, Tennessee. We have a great car show to show you, drag racing, a car corral, a swap meet, and a whole bunch more. We got a whole bunch of people here as well. The manufacturer's midway's packed and everybody's shopping. Ted Jones is at the top of this amazing facility. Let's find out more about Memphis International Raceway.
All right, Brian, I'm on top one of the towers here at Memphis Raceway Park. They have a new one, and this is the old tower. Used to be the control tower. I'm going to talk with Craig Wack right now about this facility. This is more than a drag strip.
Oh, much, much more. If you look over my right shoulder over here, we've got the grandstands for the paved oval, and right in front of that, we're currently building a dirt track that'll go online in July, so we'll have Friday night circle track racing here, and then we've got the drag strip, and then incorporated within the drag strip, we've got a road course. So we've got a little bit of everything for everyone out here.
How big is the road course?
It's about 2.1 miles, and then it's got some different configurations that we can work where we either incorporate the front stretch of the drag strip in it, or we can sort of cut it off and have a loop that's not quite as long.
This is incredible. About how many acres of property do you have here?
I think we're all on 22 acres, and we still have room to grow if we think of something else that we want to add to the property.
Yeah, and if you want to fly in, there's an airport over there.
Exactly. We're a full-service racetrack here, and we have NASCAR drivers that come in to test. They'll fly in right here, their cars will arrive, and then they'll fly right back out.
And a full pit of race cars. As a matter of fact, they're cleared out on the road course.
Yeah, we run them on the road course. There's some that are parking actually out at the airport. We've had a record crowd for Pro Mods this year. All in all, we couldn't be happier with the way the show's come together. We'll have about 50,000 people go through the gates before it's all said and done on Sunday.
Well, bottom line of all this, with all those people, all those cars, you know what? People love Chevrolets. Back to you, Brian.
Time now to take a look at our Duracell Copper Top Award winner.
You know, for years you've been putting Duracell batteries in your kids' toys or your flashlights, but you can put them in your car too, and not just your daily driver. You can put them in your hot rod as well. And one of the ways we're going to prove that to you is right here with this gorgeous 55 Chevrolet owned by Sean Brenneton out of Tennessee.
I bought it back in 1986. It was my first car for $1,500 at Auto Trader, and it had a straight six in it, 3-speed on the column, original rear end in it. It was oxidized baby blue. Just throughout the years, I've kind of worked on it. This is the second motor I put in it since then. We did a Fat Man Fab front end on it. It handles great. It's got rack and pinion steering on it, Willwood disc brakes all the way around. So it gets the job done, that's for sure.
You know, there are about a million different ways to build a 55 Chevrolet, and Sean's kind of taking an interesting approach with this car. We got this big blower on here. We got vintage stuff like these old 70s Holley thumb screws on the float bowls of the carburetor. Let's hear a little bit about what Sean thought about putting this car together.
Late 80s and stuff when I was a teen, DeCoin, Illinois, Street Machine Nationals was the thing, you know, and I loved like Scott Sullivan with the big wide tires and Pro Street and all that kind of stuff. So I originally kind of wanted to go Pro Street with it, but obviously like now that it's gotten older, Pro Street wasn't that big of a deal. So I had the blower for the Pro Street car, and then it's just kind of evolved, I guess, you know. It's not like I really went for one particular thing when I did it. I just wanted a really good street machine that, you know, I could go to car shows and do better than average with.
You know, fuzzy dice have been part of the hot rodding landscape since this car was built in 1955. They all have a little bit different meaning. These dice for Sean have a very special meaning.
My mom bought the dice the day that I brought it home. And yeah, she passed away in 1998, so no matter how faded they get, they'll stay that way forever.
You know, when 55 Chevys came out of the factory, they had little 14-inch wheels on them. Well, Sean's made some significant changes with these big rollers right here.
I just put the wheels on it last year, and I still don't know if I like them or not, because they're, you know, they're so big. I had 17s on it, and I thought those were huge, and now I got 20s and 19s, so it's a little bigger than I'd like, I think, but I'm getting used to it.
You know, with this 55 Chevy, the show doesn't end in the front of the car. It continues all the way to the back. Sean has got some great stuff in the trunk here. Got the original hood bird hanging out here. He also has this incredible 3D viewer from 1955. Got some magazine coverage, and of course, this brand new Duracell battery. And we'll be right back here in Memphis.
This episode of the Menards Chevy series is brought to you by ARP, the world leader in fastener technology. Original Parts Group, the world's largest source for GMA body parts and accessories. Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977. And by Race Gas, get more out of your engine.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Ted Jones, and lots of Camaros, probably one of the most popular cars ever produced by Chevrolet. Now, you'll also see other General Motors cars like this Pontiac Trans Am. Why? Because it has a corporate General Motors engine, which could be a Chevy engine. Right now, though, it's time for our Rock Auto Award, something we feature every week here on the series. And we have a special guest. This is Tom Taylor, Vice President with Rock Auto. Welcome. You like this?
I do. Great weather, great cars. Couldn't get better than this.
Why did you get involved and sponsor a special award?
Most of the parts we sell to our customers are for their daily drivers, but we sell a lot of parts for classics too. We sell replacement parts, brakes, exhaust, suspension.
Did you see the award recipient this week?
I did. This car's a little bit of both. It's a daily driver and it's a show car.
And Brian has our award winner right now.
Time now for this week's Rock Auto Restored Award.
You know, it's all about the hardware, baby, and Byron Long earned it this week, the RockAuto.com Restored Award here in Memphis.
I got the car when I was a senior in high school in 1978. Started working on it. It was a really rough car. I only paid $750 for it. So I've come a long way. I haven't done a lot to the car in the last few years, but I've been to all these Super Chevy shows, and I drag race it occasionally, which is a lot of fun. I have a brother that does it too, so we do it together, and we enjoy it.
So this is clearly not factory paint, and the colors on this Camaro have some incredible history.
1983 was the last time this car was painted. It was actually my second time to paint it. Did it all at home in the garage, tore the car completely down, replaced what needed to be replaced. It's starting to show its age because it's getting old.
You know, Rock Auto's been a big help in you keeping this car on the road. What kind of parts have you sourced from Rock Auto over the years?
I've replaced the whole brake system, upgraded it with disc brakes on the front, replaced all the fuel system, gas tank, sending unit, and then a lot of maintenance parts. They're my first place I go look when I'm looking for parts usually.
One of the things that it's also very cool about the car, 4-speed in there, and this was not originally a factory V8 car, and actually in that sense it's kind of rare.
Originally this car had a 6-cylinder and a 3-speed manual transmission. You do a little research, they only make a little over 5,200 cars like that. To be a convertible, who would want a 6-cylinder? So when I got the car, it had a smaller V8 in it, but I upgraded that immediately. But the rarity of the cars probably should mean I should put it back like it was, but I don't think I'll ever do that.
You can imagine rolling around in the 70s in this bad boy, this baby blaring on the speakers. This is good stuff.
At every Menards Chevy Series event, they ask us to pick out cars to receive the Producer's Pick Award.
This is my personal pick right here. Folks, you know, in the early 1960s, the three major manufacturers in Detroit, Chrysler Corporation, Ford, and General Motors, started a war. The idea was to win on Sunday, sell on Monday. They took some of the best engines they could, put them down in their lighter weight cars. So Chevrolet had a guy who was the father of the Corvette, Arcus Duntov, who came up with the idea of taking a truck motor that originally was a 348. They put that down in a lightweight body like the Chevrolet Biscayne, and voila, the 409 was born. Remember the Beach Boys song? This is a great reproduction of a 409. This is the QB block. That's the one that was 409 horsepower. 2 Carter AFB sitting on top of an aluminum intake manifold. Now the 409 head is very unusual. There's no combustion chamber. The combustion on a 409 is down inside the top of the cylinder head. Some of the things to look for on here, right over here, this is the SunTac sending unit. They added a sun tachometer when you ordered the 409 option. Other things to look for, the original Delco battery, the Tower hose clamps, not the best ones in the world, but they worked out pretty well. This is one of the best reproductions. Some of the people make a mistake. they put a chrome air breather on them. Wrong. 1962, the air breather was painted. It wasn't until 63 that they chrome plated it. They also didn't have chrome valve covers. They had painted valve covers in 1962. This is an absolutely perfect restoration. The Biscayne was a very light body, kind of a plain Jane. This one was ordered to go fast. The gentleman has done an excellent job restoring this, and that's why this is our first producer's pick.
Stay with us for more of the Menards Chevy series, where we'll show you a 1940 beauty that is a high-flying hybrid.
A 1940 Chez Panne, which is an amalgamation of two words, Chevy and Pontiac. John, tell us why it is Chez Panne.
I worked for Pontiac for 21 years and ran the race program for 15, so Pontiac is kind of tattooed on my back, so that's why we had to have a Pontiac.
You know, this car was built really as a tribute to the U.S. Army Air Corps in World War II. There are aeronautic tributes all over the car, but the coolest one, up here in the ceiling. Check out all these louvers that John punched himself.
The theme was after a P-51, so that's why you see the steering wheel. It has two buttons on it, one for nitrous, one for line lock, and all the cues throughout the car to have an airplane theme after the P-51.
Of all the stuff about this car, one of the things that we can't see is the fact that you spent, 8,000 hours building this? Was there any aspect of this car you did not touch?
No, unfortunately not. It's been worked and reworked, and Ronnie's Hot Rods down in Sanatobia did the paint work on it, which was fabulous.
You know, of all the over-the-top stuff with this 1940 Chevrolet, it's this big Pontiac motor.
This is 557-inch Pontiac Pro Stock heads, IR manifold, made good horsepower.
How important was it for you to build something that you could cruise on the street, not just a race car?
Race program's over with, but having fun on the street is always there. And I am going to go to the Texas Mile this year with the car.
You know, the car has over 800 horsepower at the tires, but John Calley's built this thing to drive. Case in point, this 6-speed transmission, it's very unique. It's a G-force that has 4 forward gears that are in a dog-style box, and then the 2 overdrives are synchroned. So you got 4 gears that he snicks in, and then 2 that he's able to slide in, 5 and 6, and that 6th overdrive is 0.5. What is the one thing you're most proud of about the car?
Well, I think that the car will drive on the street. I'm not afraid to take it to an autocross and not take it to bracket racing. It should do everything.
You know, in a car like this, it's almost impossible to sum up everything that's happening, but just this small area of the car can give you an amazing look into how the workmanship here. But virtually everything you see here has been hand fabricated by John, from the incredible mounts for the sway bar down here, all the suspension pieces, and get this, these hydraulic rams, they're repurposed forks from a Honda motorcycle that slide the front end 7 inches out so it'll clear the cowl to open up on its own. This thing is completely over the top.
Now let's check out the Original Parts Group Award winner.
Well, this week's Original Parts Group Restoration Award goes to Ken Settlemeyer in his beautiful 1970 Chevelle. And as you look under the hood, that's not the original 396.
No, it's not. A new block. It's a Sportsman's block from Chevy. It's a 540 cubic inch block.
So it's like a crate motor?
Similar to that. I put it together from parts though. It's AFR heads. It's got a fairly mild cam in it. And then, of course, headers and electronic fuel injection.
One of the more popular things in 1970 on these SS 396 Chevelles was the cowl induction. It's kind of like a different ram air. The way it worked, you had a vacuum formed right here as the air came down over the hood, and so you very easily could draw nice cold fresh air to feed the carburetor. But he doesn't have a carburetor.
I designed it so that I would keep that functional and keep that going.
So where did you find this car? Was it an SS?
It's a SS 396. I did find the build sheet behind the door panel, so I verified that. I'm the second owner of the car, first car I ever owned, and I found it in a paper from a young man way back in 1975.
Did you ever light them up?
Oh, every now and then, yeah. It's kind of hard not to, actually. It'll burn the tires right off of it. It's the original drivetrain from the transmission on back.
That thing's got to make horsepower.
Probably around 600 horsepower.
In restoring the car, he needed OPGI. Take a look at that interior. Most all of that came from Original Parts Group, including the door panels.
I had to park it for a lot of years, and it sat around basically in the weeds and kind of rusted all out. When I started on it, it was a basket case.
Now, back in 1970, this car would have come with wide ovals. He's chose some late model Firestone wide ovals. It wouldn't have come with Kroger SS Mags, but that was a cool thing to do back in 1970. Brian?
As beautiful as this 1960 El Camino is, the thing that really turned our crank is the engine. 348 cubic inches, solid lifter camshaft, and 3 two-barrel carburetors on top of it. This was the hot setup in 1960 for an El Camino.
It's a CE block I found out of Utah to match to go with the car, because there's no such thing as a matching number at that time. But I didn't put the big cam because it bucks so bad. And it's got the right Borg-Warner T10 transmission and a 370 T-case positive traction rear end.
The solid lifter engine, have you put enough miles in it to have to go in there and keep making lifter adjustments or what?
No, it's only got 200 miles on it. Probably need to do it again.
When you saw it, why did you have to have it?
When I was a kid growing up, a boy in the neighborhood, he bought a brand new one, the same color, and I fell in love with it. And I've had all kind of Corvettes and still got a Corvette. But I always wanted a 60 El Camino, and this is my second one. And I had to go all the way to Texas to get this one.
What kind of shape was it in when you got your hands on it?
Well, I give $5 grand for it, so that doesn't tell you much. It wasn't a whole lot to it. It had a lot of work to be done. And I couldn't have done it without my buddy, Rocky Hornsby. He done all the body work and didn't charge me anything.
You know, if there was one part of the restoration job in this car that Harold remembers, it's working on these extremely long and curvaceous quarter panels. He stripped them all with a wire brush.
It took months, seems like, and these quarter panels last forever. When I got the door, I thought I was through.
Harold really went all out on this restoration, including the wheels and tires. Nice steel wheel, dog dish hubcap, and even went with the bias plies on it. He's not too happy with the way they handle, but we think it really completes the look with this wide white wall on the side. And that is a great look at this El Camino. We'll be back to Memphis in just a couple minutes.
This episode of the Menards Chevy series is brought to you by ARP, the world leader in fastener technology. Original Parts Group, the world's largest source for GMA body parts and accessories. Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977. And by Aeromotive, we know it, we race it, we live it.
Here's a Mustang, got the drag slicks on the back of the big block Chevrolet engine. Notice the for sale sign. Folks, I'm in the car corral. Now the car corral is a part of the swap meet. We'll explain swap meet in just a minute. But I want to show you some of these cars that you can buy. This Pontiac that you can pick up right here. A Camaro. Here's a nice old truck, $1,500 or best offer. That's what OBO is. I like the or best offer because that means let the games begin. Now, let's tell you a little bit about the swap meet and what's down there. Old car parts, everything you could possibly imagine. Things that you need to restore that car, or maybe just really need speed equipment. Or there might even be some brand new, unusual stuff down there. All kinds of gadgets and gizmos. But remember, one man's junk is another man's treasure. That's what the swap meet is all about. You'll find heads, headers, crankshafts, camshafts, lifters, pistons, carburetors, parts for bodies, fenders, inner fenders, doors, hoods, trunk lids, seats, on and on and on. It's all a part of the swap meet. What are they going to swap? They want to swap your money for this rare part that you just got to have. Now we have one more final award. You might say Brian's gone to the dogs.
Our final award is from Minties, available at Menards, along with other fine True Science products.
So this weekend in Memphis, the Minties Top Dog Award went to this beautiful 1970 Chevy pickup. It's one of the coolest and the greenest pickup trucks we've ever seen.
Well, I grew up learning how to drive one of these trucks. My dad had one, so I wanted to try to build one, you know, before he passed away, but I didn't get to do it. And then my grandson got involved in light green, so that's how I come up with the color green. I bought it about a year and a half ago from a guy that had started on it and had it disassembled. Took us like 3 loads to get it to the house. I told my buddies when I started building I was just going to build me just a cruiser, and they knowed better, so then one thing led to another, and here we are.
Well, back in 1970, you could have optioned this truck with a big block, but not this big block.
It's a 454. They punched it out to a 468, and I put the MSD electronic fuel injection, roller cam, Edelbrock intake. Pretty much the bottom end's just stock, but the top end's kind of beefed up, big heads and all. It'll go.
You know, it's all about fit and finish in a truck like this. How about these LED lights that are right underneath this alligator skin insert on the door? Hey, what about the gauges? They even named them after the network.
Steve Holcomb in Knoxville, Tennessee, done my interior work, and when I took it to him and dropped it off to him, I told him, I said, look, I don't want a tan or a black interior, but I want something totally different. He custom built these seats Just ordered the tracks and the springs and custom built out of that, and he custom built the dash and the center console's one piece. It flows together good.
You know, over the last 10 years, there's been a really big movement about making cars and trucks handle. Randy's pickup truck is not going to handle like an old farm truck. He's got some great stuff underneath this Chevy.
CPP Performance is all the suspension work. It's got a 4.5 drop in the front, 6-inch in the back with sway bars. Got riding on 20 by 10s on the back and 20 by 8.5s on the front.
Randy really went above and beyond with this truck, but none of it's over the top. I mean, look at the quality and the coolness of this bed.
I started out with just the grill inserts and the bow ties and some of the trim down the side. Well, when I actually got ready to do the bed, I called my guy and I said, look, I don't want to paint the bed just black. I want to do it with carbon fiber to be different. And it turned out real good. Yeah, I was real pleased with it.
If you had to pick one aspect of the truck, what's your favorite aspect of it?
Probably how the whole thing just flows together. It's not really over the top.
You know, we didn't pick Randy's truck just for the color. Of course, it does work pretty good with these Minty's dog treats, and, well, they really are mint.
Hey, you think at this Chevy event they got funny cars? No. That's a junior dragster, or should I say a junior funny car. Signed by Courtney Force, it's a replica of her NHRA legal Nitro funny car. What is the star of the show? The fastest cars on the grounds, jet dragsters. This is Al Zucarkas and his 300-mile-per-hour jet dragster. There's a pair of them. They'll go over 300 in a quarter mile. And then to top things off, Danny O'Day and his Super Winch-sponsored wheel stander. It's a really neat show. But in addition to the exhibition vehicles, the jet dragsters, and the wheel stander, they also have pro modifieds. Here's Brian with more on that.
Well, Ted, the jet dragsters are cool and all, but I like my power the old-fashioned way, with pistons. And these are the fastest piston-powered cars on the grounds this weekend in Memphis. How about a little pro mod action? We're talking a 3,000 horsepower door slammer. Driver sits on the left-hand side, and these babies will run down in the 8th mile in the mid-3-second range. We're talking 0 to well over 200 miles an hour in the middle 3-second range, all with this big blown alcohol burning Hemi. Some of the cars have turbochargers, some of the cars have big inch engines on nitrous oxide. So while your jet's cool and all with thrust, I like my power with the pistons. And that's going to be a wrap here from Memphis. We'll be back to see you down the road with more Chevrolet Power next week.